How y'all doing today? Good? Can we clap again? All right, my name is Chow. I'm from Capital FM. I am a presenter, and I want to welcome you this afternoon. Thank you so much for coming. And also to the people who are watching this online. I understand it's being live streamed, so thank you for joining us wherever it is that you are watching us. And to the people coming in, please feel welcome as you walk in. Thank you so much for coming. I want to take this opportunity to welcome the people on the panel today. Like I said, okay, hold on, let me just go back a little bit. So I said I'm a presenter at Capital FM. I'm also with Bonga. I play a critical role, and I will ask the next person I'm going to introduce to kind of say that, because I can't really upsell myself. That's kind of like bragging, isn't it? So I'm just going to do the introductions. And everybody on this panel, I have to tell you, is extremely intelligent. We had a discussion in the back, and wow, my IQ just went up by like 50 points. So enjoy it this afternoon. So to my left, my immediate left, I have got David Muba, who is the digital director at Capital FM. He is also, what you might not know, but you might just see it, is Bob Marley's long-lost Kenyan grandson, joining us on the panel today. And he is, yes, he is, I'm sorry, he is the long-lost grandson. I'm pretty sure you can tell, of Bob Marley. And he's on the panel today, so he'll tell you a little bit about what he does, but he is the digital director at Capital FM, and he is also such a critical part of Bonga, without which it would not exist. So if he was not here, we would not really be able to go through Bonga. Next to him, as I continue with the introductions, I guess he needs no introduction, but I'll do it just because. Chimano from Southeast Soul. He likes to wink a lot. Did you know that about Chimano? Yeah, Chimano is going to be sharing a lot. Oh, did you want to interrupt me?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm just checking. Chimano is going to be talking about his role as an artist and dealing with mental and emotional wellness and health as Southeast Soul. We see them, we scream we scream when they go on stage. And what happens when the lights go off? So that conversation is going to continue. Now, to the left of Chimano, Senator Sylvia Kasanga. Senator Sylvia Kasanga is an architect by profession and an arbitrator as well. She's also a fun-loving dancer. She loves to dance. I'm sorry, I just had to say that, which is true. That's why she's seated right next to Chimano, because they're probably going to do a little jig at some point. Senator Kasanga is the architect of the Mental Health Amendment 2018 bill. I don't know if you know that there is a bill being put in place for mental health. And she's going to take us through that and so much more. Now we've got Gathoni Mbugua. Gathoni Mbugua is a counseling psychologist from Chiromo Lane Medical Center. And we're very, very honored to have her. Also, Chiromo Lane Medical Center are one of the partners for Bonga, and you'll hear a little bit more about what that role is. She's a very sweet and sensitive, yet effective person, I'll tell you. One of the reasons why we have Chiromo Lane Medical Center is because Gathoni pushed very hard. So you'll hear a lot about how we are able to deal, or how we should deal with mental health issues as they come along, and the role that they're playing as well. And finally, I just met him, but I feel like all of us have known him for a long time. I don't think I'm wrong. Thiru K. Mungai is an event planner, and he's also a mental health advocate. And he's got an extremely touching story as to why he is doing what he is doing. And we'll get to hear some more from him. He smiles a lot as well. We found that out backstage. So thank you so much. If you could just please give a warm welcome to the members of the panel. So I'm going to start off with David Muba. David, digital director at Capital FM. Tell us, if you could tell all of us why and how, you've got to do the how and the why Bonga is here, and why it was so important to have this platform at this time.
Hi guys. Hi. So first of all, for those who don't know, Bonga is an online platform You can access it on your phone right now. It's bonga.or.ke. The platform is basically an anonymous platform that allows people to, just go on the platform and, vent or, talk about what's weighing down on them. And of course, the inspiration behind this came so close to home. I lead a very, very creative department at Capital FM. And I had a bipolar experience with one of the guys in my department, and basically he didn't come to work for like 2 months or more, and week in, week out, he wasn't working, and everyone in the company was wondering like, there's something wrong with that guy, but you can't really point it out, And it took long for him to open up. It took more than 2 months, I think. Not 2 months, I think 6 months or something. And I had to take him like to a corner, have this discussion, get to know him better, and he finally told me, this is what I'm going through. And with that information that I got, a lot changed in terms of HR policy. Our insurance at the company, of course, added mental health as part of the as part of the additional packages, basically. So you can use our insurance to go into a mental health hospital, get treatment, and all that. And secondly, of course, with Chao on the other end, she's a radio presenter. She didn't talk about that at Capital FM. She hosts a show that is called After Hours. And Chao had experienced people calling her at night, not late at night, telling her about their situation and how they're about to commit suicide, and they just wanted to talk to someone, and there they were with Chao. And I think you talked down about 3 people or so. Yeah, and she kept the communication, and it was something as simple as third call, third person, third listening ear. Because in the African society, we know that it's really hard for people to come out and talk about these issues. Why? We fear judgment. We fear, I'm a man, I'm an African man, I'm supposed to be, like Cameroon football players, like you're third person, you're a beast. Why would you get down to talking about your issues deep down? And so, she came, told me about what she was experiencing on air. I told her about my experience in my department, and as I said, I manage a very creative workforce. And, these people use their brains. I don't know if there's an accountant here, but I feel like in the creative industry, people use a lot. There's no formula, and there's a lot of opinion that comes with it, so it's heavy on the mind. Your work is out there to be judged and to be talked about by so many people. So we created that platform, and I hope it makes sense of how and why we came up with Bonga.
It does. Thank you, David. That's amazing. And that's pretty much the inspiration for why Bonga is there. Thank you, David. Chimano, you first came into my studio about 10 years ago, talking about, we have this song, this part of Sauti Sol, and they all came together. And in this studio, you're like, you guys, you want to make it big, you want to go to the top, to the stars, to the moon, as far as possible. And that has happened. You are the best band in Africa, all right? The best band in Africa. Now, that doesn't come without its drawbacks. I can imagine I think of what we have had to do with Bonga, and it's been very difficult. And it's only been 1.5 years. You've been doing this for 10 years. What is it that we do not see, do not understand, that you go through as an artist, as a top-flying artist, as the Michael Jacksons and the Princes and the Beyoncés or Jay-Z's of Africa? What is it that we don't see? Because when you're on stage, we're cheering, we're screaming like, oh my goodness, Sauti Sol! But what is it that we don't know?
First of all, hey, how are you guys doing today or this afternoon? So good to see you. Thank you so much for turning up. You all look amazing. I'm so happy to be on this panel with such amazing minds and to talk about this topic that I am totally passionate about. Um, Now, to what you did ask, Chow. I am first of all so thankful to where we've gotten to what we've managed to achieve. Thank God for that. It's through hard work and it's through a lot of dedication and a lot of late nights, early mornings, and you know what? Just practice, practice, practice. But one thing is for sure: what a lot of us artists don't tell you or show you is the downside when we're back in our homes or when we're done presenting to you or when we're done with releasing videos to you or showing you our creative work, whereby we're thinking of what's the next move. And also there's this thing where of course we're told there's criticism and you're supposed to be okay with criticism, but to a large extent that oh, I was about to curse a bit. That does get to you. And to a point you don't even realize it, and you can't even vocalize it. You just want to keep it moving. You just want to keep going. You're scared of opinions at some point. You're always thinking of what's going to be my next kiki. For me to still be in your mouth, for you to talk about me, and that can be very strenuous. That's a lot of work when you think about it. A lot of artists, or a lot of us, have managed to use our, let me say, torture, or the torture that we bring into ourselves, to use that to create music, to create art. And also, you do realize there's some artists as well who do it, and it turns out really well. They make #1 hits, they make amazing movies, but then at the end of the day, that totally becomes, for some, it becomes one. You and that tortured soul, it becomes one, such that you're even scared of letting it go. You're scared of admitting that you're feeling down, or that there's something wrong with you. The amount of times as well we second guess ourselves. You know, we sit and we look at the work we've done and we're just like, no, we're not going to release this, or we can't do this. We think so much. This because we are scared of, oh my God, what if this does not work like the last one worked? How did it end as well? And as well, you think about it, you're just like, then maybe I could be in the wrong profession if I'm not ready for the criticism, if I'm not ready for the controversy. And that's one way to look at it, but then for me, it's the wrong way, because honestly, at the end of the day, the amount of strain and the amount of thoughts that we go through just to be able to feel that the work that we're doing is appreciated is a lot. And when it's not, it weighs down such that it changes how you create. It changes how you create, because sometimes your fans don't understand what this other trajectory, what this other path you've decided to choose. So you kind of have to change to suit, or what you think suits the people who listen to you, the people who've supported you from get-go. So yes, I will tell you, we do, and even for me, at some point, it does get too much. And I think it was even last year, it was beginning to be a bit too much for me, such that I even withdrew just from generally a lot. Even, you would say, even just within the music and with the guys, us being together, like, I find myself, like, I withdrew because it's too much. I get social anxiety, you know, when I'm in the midst of people. Because in the beginning, you're just like, wow, yay, like mingling, I'm a people person. But then with all the scrutiny that comes with it to a point, you get social anxiety. I feel like I don't want to be in a room with people. You know, I just want to finish the gig and go home. You know, when I'm backstage, I don't want to see people there. I don't want to talk to anyone. And that as well is confused with, like, but then to some extent, it's not even that, because there's too much there's too much going on. You know, you kind of feel like you can't remember everyone. And you know, you're getting like, oh, hata unikumbuki, like there's just so many things that in terms of relating with people that you have to go through, and you find yourself withdrawing from it all. And also, and I'm not excusing this, because of that, you even find a creative or an artist, when they get to that point, they do develop a wall around them. They build a wall around them, and then they're just like, you know what, that's maybe sometimes that's when you'd find them, they're a bit rude, or like they're a bit standoffish. Not to excuse it, but then that's just how it is. They take so many years of being accepting and telling yourself that this is just part of the job. But then once you get to a certain stage and you're popular, your music is popping, and the scrutiny is just so much, and everyone has something to say about you. Everyone thinks they know even the bed that you sleep in, the person you're dating, the food you eat. They feel like they own you in that regard. Then it becomes another animal altogether. And then that's where the breakdown starts. Kwa hayo machache.
We'll come back to you, Chimano. Thank you so much for being so eloquent and elaborate in explaining what it is you go through as an artist. Now, on the complete, the other spectrum, we've got Senator Kasanga. Senator Kasanga, this is completely out of your world. You're an architect by profession. You're an arbitrator. We were just chatting backstage. Your daughters love Sauti Soul. They have that little routine that they do. And you have decided to champion the Mental Health Amendment 2018 bill. They say that politics is personal, and it's driven by personal events. If you could just share what it is. We'll come to, the nuggets that we need to be aware of when it comes to the bill, but if you could just share with us today what it is that got you to champion this, because this is a big animal. We'll let the artist show you how to put the mic on, yes. Good stuff. Thanks, Jim. But if you could share with us why the drive, why the passion to ensure that this bill succeeds, because as we know it, there is no law, there is no legislation, and legislation is the cornerstone of ensuring that everything falls into place. Maybe you could start by telling us why.
Oops, I guess I didn't know how to do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Al. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak at this forum. This bill has taken me to many places. I've been speaking a lot to youth, especially about this bill. I'm very passionate about it. And for me, it's a personal story. Many people ask, you're not even a doctor, why is it that you're ending up doing something like mental health? And I say to them, it's because mental health affects everyone. Nobody is special. We are all human beings, and we encounter mental health issues along our way in our journey of life. And the psychologist here, she mentioned it earlier today. I'm sure she'll elaborate a little bit more about that. So I'm absolutely excited. Of course, you can imagine I'm very excited sitting next to Sauti Soul. I didn't think I was going to be seated right there next to him. So please take some close-ups so that I can show my daughters. But at an interview I had last week, somebody asked me, how about, the madman in the market? The village madman, everyone's village and market has that madman who's always shouting. And I said to them, that madman is a symbol of failure. It's a symbol of a system that has failed to address certain things. And in this case, mental health. And true enough, when I started this journey, and I looked into the history of the legislation, I was shocked that there's not much comprehensive legislation around mental health. And so for me, it was a low-hanging fruit as a new member in the House for me to pick and run with, because also its time is due. Whereas the government was not doing much, a lot has been done by NGOs, and private sector and civil society. They're the ones who've been having this conversation. But now that we are celebrating and we are supporting the government with the universal health care, surely how can mental health be left behind? So I'll come back to how it is anchored to the Constitution. But my personal story is that along the way, I came across psychiatrists and psychologists because I went into depression. I had to be treated for post-traumatic stress. At that time, you have no clue what that is. The first time you meet a psychiatrist, you're even shocked what they do. And now come to think of it, with that ability, I say, why should a psychiatrist be, somebody out there? Why is it that when you speak that you're going to see a psychiatrist, it's like there's something really wrong with you? Why do you have to be branded a madman just because you're seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist? And that is the rhetoric which we have to change. And that we have addressed comprehensively in the bill. And when I got into the House, I had a lot of youth coming to speak to me, asking for help, especially from the counties. I come from Makueni County. And you know Makueni, if you remember your geography, a good length of Mombasa Road is cutting through Makueni County. So we have a lot of little towns along the highway. And the youths who are growing up in these little towns have a lot of issues, from addictions, abuses. The list is endless. And the youth leaders in Makueni came to me and said, what do we do? How can we help? How can we get some rehab centers? And these questions are coming up because there is no formal legislative framework which counties can plug in from national government to address the issue of mental health, wellness, and education. So again, this is where I came from, Chow. And I sat back and I said, let's do this. Nobody wants to talk about mental health. Nobody wants to say, let's go to Mathare Hospital and see what's cooking there. But something needs to be done and something must be done, and I believe this is the time. So it's something I'm very passionate about, and I'm happy that these conversations are happening. I want to be part of these conversations. I want to encourage Kenyans to talk about it. I want to encourage Kenyans to talk about themselves. In fact, until I started talking about myself, I think that's when true healing came, even after I had been through my therapy sessions. It's when I start sharing that true healing actually comes. And I believe in sharing. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Chow, and I can't wait to dig into the aspects of the bill.
Okay, thank you so much, Senator, for being very brave and honest with what it is you've gone through. A lot of times we think that when you have a situation or you're going through therapy or you're going through some form of depression, something, it does not affect, it can only affect a certain group of people or a certain type of people. The only thing that we forget is that we all have brains. I don't think anyone here has cotton in their head. We all have brains. So because we have brains, we are susceptible to a mental health break. And that's when I want to, Gathoni Mbugua, you're a clinical psychologist, and you specialize in substance abuse. You're at Chiroma Lane Medical Clinic. We're very, very honored to have you here. You've heard us speak, and you've heard people speak, and we'll turn it back to the audience as well at some point. But the misconception of mental health and the stigma attached with speaking up is huge. You're in a room and you're talking to people who are in the creative industry. This is something that we go through on a daily basis. As a clinical psychologist who's kind of delving into this world, what is it that you have to say, or how is it that you can best explain to us the importance of keeping our mental health clean, or the mental hygiene? If you could just start off that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Charo. Hi, guys. Hi. Thank you. So let me start by discussing about the madman. For the longest time, I think the narrative that has been sold is anybody who has a mental health issue is that person in the market who is so dirty, who is speaking to themselves and collecting garbage for the longest time. And I think specifically because of that wrong narrative, that has increased the amount of stigma stopping people from being able to receive these services, right? So first of all, mental health affects every single individual. As long as you're a human being, meaning that you have physical health, then you also have mental health, which is why we say there is no health without mental health, all right? Um, there's a big confusion between what mental health is and what mental illness is, right? So mental health is basically the ability to be able to negotiate everyday problems, the ability to be able to be emotionally stable, physically okay, to be able to attend to issues that affect, our daily lives. Mental illness is, on the other side, is a disease that obviously affects your brain and incapacitates you from being able to do your daily functioning, in your life, all right? The only way that we can be able to ensure that we do not get to that extent of having a mental illness is by taking care of our mental health. And how do we take care of our mental health? This starts with the smallest bit of things. How did you wake up? How are you feeling today? Are you feeling sad? Are you finding yourself teary? Are you not sleeping well? Are you finding yourself withdrawn? Because when we talk about mental health, we are specifically discussing thoughts, thought patterns, and we are looking at your behavior. So by you being able to monitor any changes in your behavior, then that can help you be on top of the game where taking care of your mental health is concerned. Then there comes the other things. So what happens after you notice that you're going through these changes? The first thing to do is to try and talk to somebody, close to you. But should there be an instance that even after talking to other people and trying to encourage yourself and do things that you're supposed to do and you're not feeling any better, then at that point, you are free to see a counselor or a psychologist like me, and maybe in other cases, a psychiatrist. Also, just to demyth, just because you have a mental illness does not mean that you cannot have a full quality of life, and have a fully productive life. And I'm happy to be in this panel, and also to hear that this is also a good example, for you to be able to hear that there are people who've gone through these things in their life, and they are living at the top of their game, being the best versions of themselves. Yes.
Wow, thank you. Before I introduce and ask Thiru his question, I have a question for you in the crowd, and it's going to lead up to what Thiru is going to tell us. By a show of hands, because I really believe in public participation, by a show of hands, how many here either know someone or have been through some form of mental health break, like what Gathoni just explained, either through thought patterns or anything? By a show of hands, how many people either know or have been? Let's be honest as we can. As honest as we can. All right, there's no shame in this. All right, thank you so much for participating. Thiru,
Hey,
you...
1, 2, yeah, we're good.
Good, you're good. He's an event planner. Now, the reason why I ask people to put up their hands and to kind of share and be open enough is because there is a stigma attached to mental health issues. There is a stigma.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to say, I know somebody, or I have a cousin, or I have a cousin could really be me. I'm talking myself in third person. Nobody wants to talk about it. But you've been very, very honest in the space. You're in the creative industry where there's a lot of pressure, an extreme amount of pressure.
Yeah.
To create, and creation is very, very difficult. And you are also a mental health advocate.
Yeah.
You speak up about it.
Yeah.
Now, I know a little bit of your backstory is because you went through it growing up.
Yeah.
Now, I read somewhere, and I'm sure Gathoni can elaborate a little later, that the first symptoms of any mental health illness come when we're young.
I agree.
They show up when we are young. So it might have started when you're young and nobody really noticed it, and it shows up again and again until it kind of amplifies. A little bit about you. Is this, if
No,
you
I
could
agree
share
totally.
with us?
I agree
Yeah.
totally. Hello, everyone. So basically, my journey is very different. Not really different, but just I like what everyone has said and come up with different things here. But so basically, I am somebody who is suffering as well from depression and anxiety. I do have to take medicines for it on a daily basis. It started when I was younger, where, in a nutshell, there were days where I didn't want to wake up. The days when I didn't eat. I literally went for 2 weeks without eating once. I also tried to commit suicide twice. All this was happening as I'm growing up and trying to learn who I am, trying to figure out what's going on in my life with all of this is happening. So I then moved to Australia for my uni. And I thought, yeah, maybe a new break would make it happen. I'll be better, everything will be good. But it was totally the opposite. I went deeper in depression. I started cutting myself. And I didn't have anybody to talk to. Literally nobody to talk to. It felt like I was alone. It felt like everything around me was just crashing. So when I moved back to Kenya a couple of years back, I then started seeing a therapist. And as I was talking to my therapist, I realized my therapist was like, oh, you're very brave for showing up. Not many people show up. So I was like, okay, that's sad. What's happening? Because I know many people that are sort of going through it. And then it hit me. Nobody's talking about this outside the circle of therapists or psychologists. We're not brought up to talk about our emotions. As I said, as a man, you're not meant to talk about it. So I ended up making it my goal in life to speak about mental health on a daily basis. So that means no matter what type of person I meet on the road, no matter what type of person I meet in the street, I know everyone's going through something. But it's my goal to make sure that you're not alone as you're going through this. So I've partnered with different people. A couple of people will talk more about it later. But in a nutshell, that's why I started it, and that's exactly why I am on this panel.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being honest. Are you guys doing okay? Are you doing okay? Oh, you sound kind of... Are we doing okay? All right, great. I love to hear that. David, wow, so many stories. And unfortunately, I can't talk about Bonga too much, so he's going to have to do all the talking. We've heard all the stories, and we're going to hear more from the crowd once we go back in there. But, Thiru just said it's really important for people to speak up. And that's like a first step. We've heard Gathoni say the same thing. Senator Sylvia Kasanga saying that once she spoke up, she felt the healing begin. Chimano, just to your left, saying, look, it's been really hard. I didn't know who to speak to, where to speak. And maybe now this is the perfect time to talk about how Bonga works. Because we've talked about it. We've asked you to look on your phones, and if you could just go again to www.bonga.or.ke as Muba continues to speak. Perhaps you could just share how this solution is going to change what we are hearing from the panel, because it's obvious there is a problem speaking up. Yeah, so maybe you could just go through the solution for it.
Okay, I saw Chimano holding it like this. I don't know. Maybe it makes the voice deeper. On the platform, basically what happened is we started this anonymous platform, and in our heads we were like, we'll just hire 2 counselors, interns, put them in our office, whatever issue will come up, they'll be responding on a daily basis, and we are good to go. And one day we just put it up on our website. And the first day, it crashed. The very first day, it crashed. We had around, I think, 70 issues. Because, even we had given it like a small server, we didn't think it would pick up really fast. So yeah, we got 60 issues, and the issues were so wide. We thought it would be simple stuff. We saw PTSD issues. We saw schizophrenia, we saw serious marriage issues, pornography, sex. It was so wide. It was so wide, we thought, whoa, we need to calm down and relax. Think deeper about it. Don't push it. Just, keep it to ourselves for a while. Because for sure, counselors were not enough at that particular point. So we started looking. We put up a register button at the bottom. If you're a professional, you'd like to volunteer and help people, just apply down here, and maybe you can help us in future. And currently, I think we have like 800 applications from the register button. But as we were going through the list of people there, this is not our field completely, and we were like, all these people, how do we do? Mogo Erim was trending at that particular time. And we were like, how do we handle this? Like, how will we know if this person who's claiming to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist, how will we do the due diligence? We are in the media. Will we go to their clinics? Are we qualified enough to know that this person is good enough to handle the issues? And we made a very huge decision and decided, what? Let's work with bodies, and companies and organizations so that, for future reference, number one, and of course to keep people to have like a huge responsibility on an organization, not an individual. So that's how we somehow found Dr. Jenga. And through him and Gadoni, we were like, what, we have these issues, they're so wide, we can't handle them ourselves. And, just we hope that you guys can help us in responding to most of these issues and, gauging the intensity of either of the situations. And one of the things that really stood out in that particular point was the fact that Dr. Jenga himself was saying, you guys have done the right thing. Note that as the platform was, people could respond. Anyone could respond anonymously. So we had a lot of peer-to-peer conversations. Like someone with schizo would say, I'm using this medication, but I hate it because it kills my sex drive. And another one will go down there anonymously and say, I was using it too, and it did the same for me, and I got this other one, like some complicated name. It's not killing my sex drive, but it got me into depression, So you see a situation like that, I think only a psychiatrist would, handle and maybe advise them the way forward, because it's a very deep issue. So, yeah, that's how we got the partnership. We also made another partnership with the Department of Psychology in USIU, using their alumni, their faculty, the guys who are doing their masters right now and all that. And the solution basically, remember, you post your issue, you can have a lot of peers who are anonymous responding, but now our introduction of these two very able outfits is to respond, but this time they have a verification tick. Just like on Twitter or on Instagram, there's a photo of them, there's their full names, and so there's an actual person, and you can be able to differentiate from a peer to a professional. So yeah, so basically that's the platform in a nutshell. I hope it was a nutshell.
Thank you, David. Thank you. We'll come back to some more from David in a bit. Chimano, you've just heard about the platform and how it works. You're on the road. You have shows, cities, countries, places, people, faces. Everything becomes a blur, I guess, at some point, like is what you said earlier on. What is the stigma within the entertainment industry? We actually got this question and we did not have an answer to it, so it's great that you're here. What is the stigma within the entertainment industry, within artists, within musicians, and not just in Kenya? I mean, even the musicians that we watch, unajua watu wa Bongo Flava ndio wao, sijui watu wa Naija, sijui Shaku Shaku ndio wao, watu wa down south. You know all these guys. Do you talk about these things? Do you do you speak up when you see somebody suffering? Do you say anything, or are you just like, well, you know, at this point, I'm on the road?
Yo, yay, good. Um, no, we don't talk about them, or we don't talk about them as much as we should. And when we do talk about them is when it's become really serious, or it's a dire situation. I think what I'd say is that we have this whole approval cloud hanging over us. And I think just in general, to deviate just a bit, as we grow up, people, or rather we never do talk about our dreams without the fear of being judged. We never talk about our feelings as little boys growing up to their fathers. You never feel like you have that liberty. Maybe now with this generation, but then it was almost as if it was like you're there to be seen and not to be heard. You know, you're just a child. What do you know? You can never really express yourself. So at the end of the day, like even within the creative industry, it's just that whole approval cloud over you, whereby you're seeking to do things to get that nod of approval, either from your fans, from your fellow artists, such that you do forget to actually just talk about yourself. You never want to talk about the bad feelings that you have or the distress that you're feeling. You only want to talk about the success that you have gained, or the success that the big plans that you have for you based off the success that you have. So honestly, as artists, we do not, even just amongst ourselves. It would be very interesting if I were to walk into a room and, like creatives were talking about, wow, like I feel down. I feel like I'm not okay. We never do that. That never happens. Which is why at some point you do find, some do self-medicate, and don't even think of like the big drugs. Just think about alcohol. You drink a lot to take your mind off of the situation, off of trying to talk to people, off of just trying to solve a problem. You smoke a lot. Just let's start with the basic stuff. In that in that regard. So it's really not something that happens. But I will say, I mean, since from last year, I have had conversations with a couple of creatives, and it was because I think after that time, a lot of, or like this two, for me, I think it was Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade, after they committed suicide. And you look at it all and you're just like, wow, you had everything going for you. It's the same, and you're a billionaire, but then wow, that happened, and that's it. Well, you were saying there's no wealth without health. What was that? Yeah, that one. So then there's that. Before everything, this is so important for you to feel that you can work through your issues, whatever is troubling you. You can take it to someone and talk about it. More so for artists, for us, what we go through, the relationships that we try to keep, the relationships we try to create and maintain, and balancing egos. And it's very interesting. Sometimes I do joke about it, and I'm just like, as an artist, maybe you kind of do have a little diploma or a certificate or a degree in how to deal with people, but then you don't, because when you're performing, or when you're working a crowd, you kind of know how to read the mood. You know when to tell them, yeah, piganduru, wapi mikono, so like, and you can kind of gauge. But then at the end of the day, it always ends up being you wanting to do that to seek their approval, as opposed to just giving your best at that moment. Yeah. Yes, sir.
That's very profound, huh? Very, very profound. Did you know that that's what they go through? No, did you ever imagine that? No, you just put yourself on blast. Did you? Oops. Senator Kasanga, the Mental Health Amendment 2018 bill, which some of us have read, and we will ensure that you're able to get a copy for yourself. She will share the link. Deals with mental health at all levels. Of course, now you're in the creative sort of space. Perhaps you can share some nuggets on what the bill contains in digestible form for us, because creatives have very short attention span. But no, in digestible form for us, on what and how it will impact us and why we need to look out for it, make noise about it, and just kind of push it even, and push awareness of it.
Thank you, Chao. First, let me start by reminding us that we promulgated the new constitution in 2010, and we are the beneficiaries of a fantastic constitution today, and we need to maximize. And why I'm saying this is because of everyone's participation in lawmaking. Sometimes, and many times, I was in a business community meeting at breakfast today, and a lot of people say, we just leave the politicians, they're just politicking. But actually, the politicians are also creating the bills in the House. And those bills affect you. And the business community today is really feeling it after a bad, year. Last year was a terrible year for business. Across all industries, I'm sure even you guys must have felt it. Then 2017 was an election year. We know what happens during every election year. So they're saying they're finally feeling the pinch of it. And now they want to participate in legislation. And every one of you, each one of us here, you have a duty to participate in lawmaking in areas of your interests. And in as much as sometimes you don't have, say, a representative in parliament, the purpose for us there is to partner. So you reach out and you partner, and then we're able to champion whatever bills, amendments, and stuff like that that people are interested in. And that is absolutely critical. And again, why I'm saying this is because a bill like this one, that affects all Kenyans, it's important we get into a habit of even going through these bills. And many of us don't. And I never used to myself, honestly. I never used to. But now suddenly being in the House and seeing the impact that these things have, I have now a duty as well to study them. And the interesting thing is that when we are drafting bills, the drafters actually tell us that the bill is drafted in a language that anybody can understand. It has no big words. That's what I came to learn. So it's not difficult to read. And I've really been trying to encourage everyone, even in our own industry, to take a keen interest on some of these things. So I want to read for you the export of this bill. So that you can see where we are coming from. It's called the Memorandum and Objects, and the reasons why I went into doing an amendment bill. And the first thing is that Article 43(1)(a) of the Constitution, which, by the way, you should have on your fingertips, guarantees every person the highest attainable standard of health. I think you all know that, and that is your constitutional right. So today, nothing stops you from demanding that, Then the Constitution further establishes 2 levels of government. So we have the national government and the county governments. And these 2 levels have an obligation to ensure everyone has access to healthcare services within their jurisdiction. Again, that is so critical. And sometimes we really don't internalize some of these things. The 4th schedule, part 2 of the 4th schedule of your Constitution requires county governments to provide county health services, including promoting primary health care. Again, you need to make demands to your county governments. Wherever you come from, if you come from Nairobi, you have Nairobi. If you come from back at home, you have to go and make demands for these things because they're provided for. So this particular amendment bill is also anchored in the Health Act. The Health Act 2017 was passed in Parliament. And as part of that Health Act, there's a section that states that Parliament should enact legislation to ensure the rights of individuals suffering from any mental disorder or conditions are protected. And mental health hospitals with sufficient capacity are established at national and county levels. So already, the Health Act has envisioned a situation where we need legislative framework for mental health, both at national and county level. So it's just that the government had not done it. So what the Mental Health Amendment Bill 2018 is addressing is exactly that particular issue, where we want to anchor now not from national government, but down to the county level. So we want to impose obligations on each level of county government to address the issues of accessibility to mental health services, including care, treatment, and rehabilitation. So it's a very comprehensive bill, and I really want to encourage everyone. It's very easy to read. You'll be surprised at how easy it is to read. I don't know if I should go a little further deeper in, or that's okay for now.
We'll
we
come
can
back.
digest that for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, no, we'll come back to you. We have some time. We still have some time. Thank you so much, Senator Kasanga. Gavani, wow, we've shared and shared and shared, and I'm pretty sure you're thinking, I have people that need to come and see me. As a psychologist, just listening to what it is people go through, the approval system, or the need for approval, I want to come back to the issue of social media. Social media is a wonderful tool. It is a wonderful thing. But we have situations where people have become enslaved to it, to use a term. We have vanity being curated, we have image being curated, we have envy being curated, and so on and so forth. And we have children from as young as 13, because I think that's how young you can be to get onto some of these platforms, social media platforms, who grow up seeing this and start comparing themselves from an early age. And we have these stressors that continue from that time up until, infinity, ad infinitum. Somebody told me when I was researching that our grandparents never used to meet as many people as we do in a day. I don't know if that was said today, or I think I heard it like a couple of days ago. But we're now being bombarded left, right, and center. Is this part of the reason why we are seeing a breakdown, an inability to function at maybe the highest level, because we are so invested in approval in very many ways, shapes, and forms? Perhaps you could help us understand that.
Thank you, Charo. Let me start by saying, well, before I answer that question, let me just highlight that one of the recent incidences that have happened is a student committed suicide just last week. And before this action happened, they put up a post on Facebook. And unfortunately, there were a lot of negative, comments. People are really insensitive. So there were a lot of people saying, you go buy rat, I'll help you, nitakuja mazishi yako, and things like that. And, you're right. While social media is a tool where we can, get a lot of information, or do like what we are doing right now, there is a really, really big danger to it. And one of the biggest things is that is comparison, both upward comparison and downward comparison. And let me just explain that. So upward comparison is where you are constantly chasing the wind, right? So you're always going to look at that person that you idolize. What are they wearing? How do they talk? What event are they going to? Yeah? And that definitely increases the level of anxiety, the level of stressors, and obviously the reminder of how short you are falling, right? And if that is not attended to, obviously the withdrawal happens, the depressive symptoms, start to come. And let me just mention very, very importantly, every single human being, every single individual goes through points in their lives where they feel, I want out. Whether it's out of the job, whether it's out of the relationship, whether, in short, there is no individual who at any one point in their life, from birth to death, that does not experience suicidal ideations, whether passive or active, and Passive suicidal ideations is where you just had a really bad day. Maybe you got fired or you got dumped, and when you're crossing the road, you're like, what if I just throw myself, in front of this bus? It wouldn't be that bad. That's a passive suicidal ideation. But active suicidal ideations is where you have thought about it, you've been struggling, with all these negative thoughts, and you've gotten to a point of writing down and having, few attempts. Yeah? So with that said, when you're taking part in the upward comparison or downward comparison is whereby you're always looking at the guys who are doing worse than you are, forgetting that we all belong to all, our individual lanes. Comparing yourself to somebody who is lower than you then gives you a false feeling of an inflated ego that you're doing well or you look better, and things like those. So you are lying to yourself. You're not being able to be your authentic self. And the day reality just hits you that you're not where you want to be because you've not been living your authentic self, then all these other mental health issues start coming in. Let's also not forget that life is not fair. It's one of the hardest lessons I ever learned, in my life. So life is not going to look at you and say, since this happened to you in childhood, since you've been fired, since you went through a divorce, I'm going to approach you in a more delicate way. No. The responsibility lies within us. And we can't even get help if we don't talk about, some of these issues that we go through. And what we always tell our friends, our families, and our clients is that shame dies with exposure. If you forget every other thing, remember that shame dies with exposure. Simply meaning that if you come out, if you go beyond that, that block of, if I talk about this, people are not going to like me. If I talk about this, I might be fired. If I talk about this, I will lose funds. If you go beyond just that little milestone and talk about how you are genuinely feeling, then number one, no one can use that, no one can use that against you. And number two, then you're going to get help, which is one of the biggest mind-blowing things that I ever came across when I met Cha and David doing the Bonga. Because then Bonga gives you an opportunity to anonymously talk about what you're feeling. And the issues we are seeing there, they are so real, so genuine, so heartbreaking. And I can genuinely be able to empathize with those people. There is no way somebody will walk into my office and tell me that. But because this is a completely anonymous platform, I wish, the university student just came and said, I feel like going through this. And I think the most important part is that they have professionals to attend to this. So instead of having insensitive people telling you, go commit suicide, or you're not the only person suffering, then there are professionals, to do this. Sorry.
Such as Gathoni, who's really very active, and her team speaking on the back end. So whenever you go and you have an issue, remember it's anonymous. We don't know who's there. We will never be able to find out. We don't even go there. We just go periodically to see if people are interacting. But we have our doctors on the back end who are responding. Thank you so much, Gathoni. I think shame dies with exposure is such a powerful, powerful thing to remember. Don't you think? Yeah, shame dies with exposure. Just speak it out. Bonga, speak it out. Thiru, I saw you nodding your head so many times.
Yeah.
What's up? So many times as Gathoni was speaking.
Yeah.
And I guess it's very relevant to,
It really is, yeah.
to what it is that you've been through. Now, we're talking because of mental health and wellness in the creative industry. What is the one thing you wish people knew about you and people in the creative industry who might not be able to speak up? You're out there churning ads, and we're like, that ad was who was the brainchild for that, or whatever it is that you see in terms of the criticism. What is the one thing that you wish people knew? Just going on with the shame dies with exposure.
I love that. I love that comment, because as I was telling you guys a bit backstage, the company that I work for, sadly, we've had 3 people commit suicide in the past 3 years. Now, we work in a very intense industry where every day you've got a client that will walk in and be like, I want this, this, and this, and this, and you have to make it happen. You have a boss that is on your back every day telling you need this, this, this to happen. Then you have to go home. And then you realize, I've got problems at home. So what tends to happen is that you then build up all of this anxiety, all of this feeling that you're not doing well. And it just blows up one day. And then you're stuck. You either decide, this is it, I'm gonna end up killing myself, or other times it just, you just spiral into drugs or spiral into other things. So for me, it's been a journey and a half. I'm very lucky that I've got a couple of friends, some of them are in the crowd as well, who I work with that have seen, we've been able to change that where we work. So where we talk about it among each other, and we make sure that every now and then we check up on each other. And it's not just be like, hey, how was your day? No, it was, dude, is everything okay at home? Is you and the missus okay? Is you and the husband okay? Are the kids doing good? How is everything, like, what is stressing you right now in your life? So I believe in talking about it. It's the reason why I put it out there, and I have no issues putting my life literally on social media. Chimano will tell you I don't hide anything when it comes to my social media. I put up everything because I want people to be able to speak out and say, you know what? Like, okay, I'll give an example. So a friend of mine the other day saw a post of mine. I was in Addis and doing an event. And it was like, oh, dude, you live a good life. You're always doing events. You're flying across different countries, doing this, doing that. And I was like, yeah, I do that. But then now you also put up posts about you going, like, you're depressed. Like, you're having a shit day, type of thing. And I was like, yeah, because I want to show people that in my day-to-day, I have problems. I don't wake up every day and I'm like, yay, I'm here. Let's enjoy life to the fullest. It happens. But it's what you do when you get to that point of feeling depressed or anxious or that you can't do it no more, surrounding yourself with people that you can expose yourself to and be able to tell them, listen, I am going through this. I am suffering. I'm loving the fact that we have Bonga right now. That has really changed. I played with it and I've been able to see how it works, and it's such a great platform as well. But there's also not just Bonga, there are other sites on Instagram, on Facebook where people actually have suicide hotlines, have places where you can speak to people. So it's very, very, I'm loving this conversation. I'm loving the fact that right now we are exposed enough to be able to speak about it. And I feel like that is what we need to tell ourselves every day, that, it's okay to speak about what I'm going through.
All right, thank you so much. So guys, I want to turn it over to you for a little while. I think we've spoken, you know how we speak, you know what we have to say. Are there any questions that you would like to ask? And please do not be shy. Any questions? Do not be shy, do not be shy. Can we sing? Do not be shy. Can you sing it? No, just kidding. Yes. You're right. Yes, there's a question. Hey. How are you?
Can I sit or stand?
No, however, whatever makes you comfortable.
Okay, let me just sit. Hi, Senator, how are you? And hi, panel, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Thank you so much for holding this thing, you guys. People don't talk about this, and it's true because I am living it. I'm in the present of my speaking on my mental illness and having the kickback that's happening. So I'm currently living it. So thank you guys for doing that. I have a question for the senator. In your bill, are you addressing the decriminalization of suicide? Because the decriminalization, because you see, it's a crime to kill yourself or to try to kill yourself. And if you do try, you don't get treatment, you're supposed to go to jail. And that makes no sense because suicide is a symptom of an illness. It's a medical symptom of an illness. Well, given that in the same bill they do say it's illegal to go into diabetic coma, but for the mental illness part, I think the decriminalizing suicide is very important. It is not supposed to be legalized, but I think if you could have other penalties like going to treatment, get some therapy to be more beneficial. Because I think many people don't get help. And like for me, when I was having my own suicidal episode, I really, really was going to make sure that it's going to work because I didn't want to go to jail. Honestly. Wow. That's my question.
Thank you, thank you. Senator, perhaps you could address that one? You could take that question?
Thank you so much. And thank you for speaking up. Thank you for the courage. I really, really appreciate that. Now, the issue of suicide being a criminal act is addressed in a different bill, of course, so it would require an amendment of that different bill. What we are addressing here is the management of, once you are already coming in, yes, the management of. We are also addressing preventive measures, which were not there in the previous bill, and then post-treatment measures is what we're addressing in this particular bill. But I hear you, and honestly, that is something that needs to be looked into. Maybe the psychologist can also tell us, in terms of the law, if it's an area where we can look at and, we champion some form of amendment to that bill.
Can I, can I ask you a question, Madam Senator? Seeing as that you said it's in another bill that would need to be amended, is that something then like you would look into? Because I feel it ties in really well into the bill that you have. Do you author a bill or do you write a bill? It does really tie into, and it would be like a complete package in a way. Do you think that's something then that you would be willing to as well make sure and put it in the forefront of your bill, of the current bill that you have?
Absolutely. In fact, now that it has been raised, then I have a duty to go and look into it. Honestly, I can't walk out of here and ignore, because it has now come to my attention. It's something we can look into. Our work as legislators is not just to draft new bills, but also to amend existing bills so that they can suit, the environment as it is. True enough, suicide and mental, illnesses now is a national disaster, honestly speaking. So I hear you. And in fact, I will take it up and look into it and see what I can do about it. Thank you.
So thank you so much for actually putting her on the hot seat. Yeah, I will personally follow her up because it's really, really unfortunate. Where we stand currently, it is illegal to commit suicide. Yet you didn't wake up one day and decided, I want to be dysfunctional. This is actually, a mental illness. And it's sad that instead of getting the help that you need, then you are taken to an institution that even makes you worse off than you were before. So, but on the other hand, we are slowly, as a practitioner, we are slowly seeing the change from the noise that we are making as, as mental health advocates and creating this mental health awareness. For example, even though the bill has not passed, today you cannot be fired from your job because you have a mental illness or because of substance abuse. Obviously, si kama kitambo, when you show up at your work and you're smelling of booze, you're out. Today the institution has to show that they have given you a chance, and they pay for it. They have given you a chance to go for therapy. And in other cases, they have given you a chance to go for rehabilitation center. And the NHIF, which is the national fund today, actually does cover mental health. So you can come for therapy or you can do rehabilitation center, So wow. It's a process and we are going somewhere.
Wow, thank you. Any other questions? Because I know there's quite a number and we have time for your questions. Somebody else had their hand up? Yes, sir. For production purposes, could you please stand up when you're asking your question? Thank you very much for obliging, sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't have a question.
Okay.
And my name is Jerry Gitonga. And,
thank you, Jerry Gitonga.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Senator. My comment is just that about the bill, I don't know how far it has gone in the legislative, the debates in Parliament. But I think if it is not yet completed, then maybe if people follow up here, they can wait for that public participation time and make sure that when it is opened up for that, they go and make those comments, because I think it's very important, and so that we help each other in that way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
If I can just comment on that, Chow? Yeah, the bill is currently going to be listed for second reading at Senate. And second reading means now the senators get to debate it in depth. And at the same time, there'll be an invitation for public participation. In fact, probably that one will be coming out in 2 weeks' time. And when it is published, it will be in the local dailies. I really do urge everyone, come to the chambers, come let us, air your views, your comments, raise your issues. It's a wonderful opportunity to speak up in public participation. So thank you for that, yeah.
Thank you. Yes? Yeah. Hi, please stand up for production purposes. Thank you so much.
Right. Okay, my name is Don, and I really thank you all for speaking on what most of the artists have been, not only artists, but most of, everybody has been shying away from. Yeah, so I thank the panel for coming through on that matter. What I would like to urge everyone is that, first of all, let's check our circles. You need people who you'll be real with at all times, because most of us have these breakdowns and everything because we don't get chances to talk about it. And it's about your circles, because when you have something inside and it brews for a long time, automatically in the long run you'll have this burst, or it's just like anything at the end of the day. Once it's cooked and it's overcooked, then it comes out. So I urge everyone here who's listening or who will be watching later, just on your circles, make sure you have these people who you can be real with, who you can talk to, because that one will help a lot in times of the times whereby you're about to have breakdowns, things like that. That's all.
Thank you so much.
I totally agree with that. Thank you for opening up and saying that, because what is, and I don't know if Chimano, we've been in the industry for almost 20 years right now, and we've seen a lot happening, but the main thing is having people that are real with you. Somebody who'll be like, yo, Chimano, man, what are you doing? Please have those type of friends, or be that friend. Yeah. That's the most important. Be that person. You're not trying to kill the vibe. No, you're not trying to tell them, no, what you're doing, or you're jealous or anything like that. You're just being very real with them. Yeah. Just make sure that you're always right there and be like, I'm being honest with you. What you're doing is wrong. Or, come, let's talk about this more,
And I think just to add on that, I'd say, for me, the first time I even actually talked some serious things, some serious issues to someone who listened to me, just a friend. It was such a sigh of relief, because the reaction that you get from the other end is also so reassuring. There's that. So you do realize, oh, wow, there's someone I can talk to, and you do not get one single ounce of judgment, or do you feel a single ounce of judgment? And I will say as well, sometimes you do feel like the system is rigged against you, yeah? Especially as a creative. Because right from the home to school, when, just in terms of having the vehicle that will facilitate your dreams, your ambitions to being an artist, they're not there. By the time you do get to a point where you feel you have reached somewhere, the emotional toll that it has taken on you, some of the backlash, or you just feel like you don't have support, you do not even enjoy your time up there, because as well, so many things weigh you down, so many, as I said, that cloud of approval. You still want to seek approval, but once you do have once you are able to just talk about serious issues and actually talk about them seriously, you do heave a sigh of relief at that point. And yeah, I'm with you on that one for sure.
Thank you. Gathoni, you had something to add?
On that note of being real, how do you know that you have real people around you? And just as a challenge, to my fellow panelists and also the people in the crowd, I think one of the most disheartening thing, and I'm also a victim of it, is when somebody tells you how they're feeling. For example, I don't think I'm doing well. There's this instinct to immediately encourage that person and say, oh no, you're so strong. Oh no, you're doing well. The message that you're trying to get out is to encourage that person. But the message that is received by this person who's decided to expose their vulnerability to you is, you do not care. And you are not listening to me. So if you're in your circle of friends, the people who are around you, the minute you express a concern, and that concern is either brushed away or that concern is either minimized, then you are in the wrong circle. As a challenge, be that person, number one, if somebody tells you they have a problem, and really try to be empathetic. Why is Tairus telling me that they are feeling bad, even though I think they have all this? Why is a senator telling me she feels like crying and she has all this? What they have is not important. What they are telling you is actually what is the most important thing, and that is what needs to be attended to on a human level. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we still have some more questions, and we got time for you. There was one to the left. Yes. Thank you. Please. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Naira. My question is for Chimano. You mentioned about social anxiety. And so I just wanted to ask, how are some of the ways that you have dealt with those anxieties in a social situation? Because it is something that affects a lot of artists, and you come to an event like this and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So yeah, how have you dealt with it through the years?
The mic keeps refusing me. Anyway, I'll be honest with you. I really haven't dealt with it or totally dealt with it. It's something that I have to, and I would say it's something that's become more and more like in the past year or so. So honestly, I haven't dealt with it. There was a time I was actually, I was thinking of going for therapy, and never got to it because I talked myself out of it. But I will say it's sometimes it can be difficult to, yes, as you said, to be in a social situation. But I do not really have the answer for that. I would be lying to you if I told you, oh my God, I just there and then I just struggle and I try to talk to people. I really don't know. It's something also for me. I'm trying to figure out in a way that I feel that, of course, it shouldn't affect the person that I am or my art, but then that should never take precedence over you sorting out your social anxiety issue. So no, I still haven't dealt with it, but I will deal with it.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm glad that you brought that up, because you said you wanted to go for therapy but didn't. I'm a massive believer of therapy. So no matter what happens, no matter what situation you're in, I believe first try therapy, try it out first. Go to a therapist and be like, listen, I'm having these issues and I don't know what to do with them. I believe once you do that, you'll be able to get the guidance that you need to be able to deal with whatever you're dealing with at that moment.
Gathoni, perhaps, thank you so much, the two of you, for answering that for Naira. Luckily, we have a therapist on the panel, so we could get a free session, right? See how we can get this answered. Gathoni, how would we need to deal with social anxiety? And I'm only saying this because I'm pretty sure it's not just the Naira, Theru, and Chimano who are dealing with it. I'm sure probably 90% of us are dealing with it, but don't know how to deal with it. So perhaps a freebie, if you could just give us like some points. Yeah.
Well, the truth is, every single individual goes through a level of anxiety. Clinically, we look at anxiety as normal, mild, moderate, and severe. And I'm also a firm believer that a little anxiety is not so bad because it gets you in check. For example, if you have anxiety, before your performance, then it means that you will practice more, or before an exam, it means that you will read. But if your anxiety has gotten to a point where it's hindering you, it's incapacitating you from being able to achieve the goals that you have, then that is definitely something that is worth checking. But specifically just, for this forum, just to give you a few tips. Number one, preparation is good. Why are you getting the anxiety? Are you performing? Is it an exam? Or were you coming to present? I was very anxious, let me just be very honest, And a lot of us were, even in this panel. So that goes to show you it's normal. Yeah? So try and prepare. Do some deep breathing exercises. Make sure that you get some good sleep. And exercise. Right, yes.
Well, there you go. That's our free session. Thank you, Gavani. Chiki, you have a question.
Hi.
Hi, please stand up.
My question is about money, because I feel often in the creative industry, it's the people who are pushed down in terms of finances the most. So let me just talk about dance. Your average dancer will earn maybe 1,500 to 2,000 shillings per gig. If you're getting 4 gigs in a month, that's 2, 4, 6, 8,000 shillings. Wellness is also about how you eat, how you sleep, how you can pay your bills. So if people are being paid really poorly, and even people who are being paid well are not guaranteed that they're going to get their money at the end of it, because some big companies sometimes withhold money for a very long time before it's paid. How do we tackle that?
Wow. Yeah, well, luckily we have a creative on
What?
this panel.
So I get that question a lot because of the company I work for. And it also happens to me personally, because sometimes, we don't get paid by our clients. It's hard to tell you the right answer to that, because it depends on your relationships as well with your clients, and how you deal with them on one-to-one. So if you have, I have some clients who pay us every 30th. And I'm like, yeah, cool. But there's some who, since 2017, still haven't paid us. You get. So it's hard, to be honest. It's very hard. There's no right answer. There's no right way I can tell you to be like, this is what you need to do. This is how it's going to work. Because I know I'm also bad at also paying some of my suppliers. Some of them are here, and the first thing they saw me were like, hey, where's my check? So it happens. It happens, but I think it also goes back to maybe having that group of people that you can rely on, that can sort of be like, okay, listen, what do you need us to help you to get to where you need to go? We push our accounts guys a lot in the office. We're like, listen, no, we need this payments done. It's like, it goes back to relationships, just creating that good relationship as well.
Oh, can I just have a follow-up? Because with due respect, there's a big difference between someone with a big company supporting them and one individual dancer who's depending on 2,000 shillings in order to be able to eat.
I agree with you. I agree. There's a massive difference. That's what, like I was saying, I wish I knew the right answer for that. Because also, I also have a brother who's a musician as well, and he's gone through that as well. So I tend to see it a lot. It's also on a personal side as well. So I don't know. I wish there was a right answer to that, at least from my perspective as well.
Senator, I can see you angling.
Itching.
Yes, yes.
No, I think this is where lobby groups, you have to come together as a fraternity. And I know the music have done that, because there's quite a bit of champion on against, rights. Yeah, there's somebody's fighting about the rights for musicians. You can't just sell music anymore. I think the CDs that we would collect for 50 bob are, they're reduced. And that is because you have a lobby group through which you can push your issues. So you need to come together as a dance community. And I've seen that in my dance circles, because I do the Latino salsa dancing. And there's some serious talent in this country, frankly speaking. And I keep wondering, what can we do? If you guys come together as a group and you organize yourselves, then you can champion even for your worth. These guys will have no choice.
No, I'm sorry, Senator. My partner's also a musician. And even with the lobby groups, blacklisting happens a lot. So if you know you're part of a group and then you're blacklisted by massive corporations that you can't fight against, and my partner's a big musician, so that's not even the smaller musicians who are coming up, who may be part of groups but are scared to put their name out there because they're not then going to be hired by particular organizations.
That's a very difficult question, even for me. What my perspective is just the perception of the creative industry as a whole by society and the powers that be. So it starts from the lower level, from the primary school level, in terms of what is taught about art. What can a young, talented dancer, singer, what can be done in terms of specialization? Do we have special schools for them? Do we have special training for them from a very young age, from a lower level? Because if we start even talking about this where we're at right now, as professionals in our respective fields, sometimes I feel, yes, we talk about it, and we can champion and we can lobby, but to an extent sometimes there's only so much you can do because of the pushback when you even talk about the earnings from when you want to talk about the MCSKs and everything like that, the court cases that have been there, like the corruption and things like that. It's a whole different ballgame up here. So what are we as well, what is my part as the artist that I am to make sure how the arts are respected from a younger age? I remember in primary school when 844 was just the 844 that we had. I thought of like home science and woodwork, metalwork, agriculture, and when funny enough, music was my worst subject. I hated it to bits. But like when I look at it back then, and to a point whereby in high school it was, or even primary school, where all those things were scrapped, and I had to like read for 5 units that I think about it and I'm just like, okay, well and good, but what about, I enjoy doing home science, I enjoy doing my woodwork, I enjoy that. So at that young level, how do we change that perception, such that by the time they're teenagers, they can be able to now talk about just, I'm this kind of artist, talk about their art, gain some respect, because it's those people who are going to be in positions of power, or future artists. Like, it's just that, for me, that's my perspective in that regard.
All right. So, in radio, when I've run out of time, I look at the clock and I'm like, okay, I have to go. I've just gotten the nod that we really need to wrap this up. So I know you might have a lot of questions, and I'm pretty sure you can approach us individually. We're a very friendly bunch, and ask us then. But just to quickly summarize, I'm going to ask my panelists, starting with Thiru, to just give us one last word. And as we go around, I'm going to be a little strict with the time because they've been strict with me.
No problem.
Yeah. So, one last word from you, Thiru.
My thing is, I'll go back to it. It's just surround yourself with people that can be real with you. Those are the people that are going to help you when you're low and keep you grounded when you're high. Okay. So that, for me, is my last word.
Thank you. Gavani?
I didn't see this coming. But I'll leave you with a philosophy that I go by, which is the self. The person whom one is today is not somebody who you bump in across the road. It's somebody that you participate in creating. So that's what I'll leave you with. Wow. Work hard, do something about yourself, identify the areas, that you are not doing well, obviously in regards to mental health, and do something about it today.
All right. Senator,
I also was expecting to go into the bill.
I got the call right now.
Okay, no worries.
But we will have time for individual questions once this part is done.
No worries, but just to encourage Kenyans, remember you have a duty to participate in legislative matters. You must participate. You must bring your views when the public participation call is made. Do not miss out. Then we end up having a bill where everyone seems unhappy. This is your time. And that's why we have to appreciate our new constitution. This is where you get to participate. So I can't overemphasize on the importance of public participation. Thank you.
Chimano?
What I'll say is speak up. Speak up. Social media has been used as a powerful tool to bully. You know what? Don't be scared. If you see someone is saying, or if you see something wrong, twiddle those thumbs on that phone and say that's wrong. Even if there's backlash, you forget that there's people who also see that it's wrong. They only need as well that prompting. And it's sad that that's what society is, whereby to talk about an injustice, you feel like you can't. But do it, the people who will see it, and they will also say, and they will also speak up about it. So you know what? Speak up.
All right. David?
For me, it's the same thing. I remember Drake recently in the Grammys said that, you know, the creative industry is an industry built on opinion. So people will talk, but we also need to talk and speak about our issues. I know many people say that when you go to Kenyatta Hospital, you forget you're sick. You know, we need to speak up as much as we can about mental illness and make it, you know, it's a normal thing that happens. And lastly, remember, HIV and AIDS had worst stigma, so we can do this.
All right, wow. Amazing. I think that's amazing. I want to thank you so very much for participating. Thank you so much for you streaming online. We really appreciate it. And for all the questions that have come in, the ones that were not able to come in, we will stand here and be be able to address them. On behalf of the entire panel, and of course Bonga, which we spoke about earlier, the most important thing, as everybody has sort of said, is please speak up and go to Bonga. Bonga there, it's anonymous. Gadhoni is one of the people on the back. She won't know who you are, obviously, because we never do. But thank you so much. Asanteni for taking your time this Friday afternoon to join us. And the only thing I'm going to leave you with is we came to this panel. In the back, we said we want to spread love, positivity, and great energy. And we have received so much more from you. So thank you so very much. Let's spread the word. Let people find out that it's okay not to be okay. But most importantly, it's okay to speak up as well. Thank you. My name is Chow. Ciao.